I feel like I'm in a cartoon. Okay, let me look at my little notes here. Welcome to UUCP, Unitarian Universalist Church of Pensacola. My name is Penny Featherstone, and I'm your service leader today, and I use the pronouns she and her. Announcements. We've got quite a few today. Most important, September 4th, that's today, the 11th next Sunday, the 18th and 25th at 11:30. Announce it on those days. Okay, sorry. This is my first time doing this for a long time, so I'm getting in the groove. At 11:30 on Sunday, September 25th, there will be a brainstorming session, and everyone is invited. We will be getting our collective intelligence around ways to attract people to our church. Please put it on your calendar and plan to come. From Laura Keith King and Lauren Anzaldo. There are a couple other announcements. One, next Sunday is our in-gathering service, and many of us have been away for the summer, and even if we haven't been away, we may have been on a staycation. When we gather back after the summer, it's a special time to celebrate coming back together. If you have a memento, some water, a shell, a pebble, something small, bring it to next Sunday's service, and it's a way to join these waters. Okay, and also next Sunday will be Sunday Sweets after the service. So there will be sweets for sale that benefit the church, and come hungry and prepared to take some home. It seems to me there's one more thing. I think there's something about next Sunday. Pictures. Next Sunday we're going to be taking a group picture. So come prepared. And be here. And even if you're not prepared, be here. And now we will have Linda give an announcement.
Georgianne and I are trying to head up and get a yard sale going. Most of you have had an email from me and asking you to contribute some time. Now the yard sale itself, we need volunteers. If we don't get enough volunteers, we will not be able to have it, because it does take a lot of hands to pull this off. If everything's a go, you can start bringing things on October 2nd. The dates of the yard sale are actually, we need to have them by the 16th, okay? It's a good time to clean out, but please don't, if it's something is, I know one man's junk is another man's treasure, but I mean, if it's really not gonna, but we'll be going through them too as well. So we need people every day that week. We need them for different things. We're willing to train you. The Sunday, the 16th, we particularly need some able-bodied people that can put up tables and things like that, and then some people to help us start sorting. The sooner we can get it done, the sooner we can get it done and feel like we're going to go ahead. If we have to cancel, we will cancel before October 2nd, so you will know. We're kind of almost there, but even if you just come for one day and help us mark things, or if you want to come on the day of the yard sale and help one day, we will put you to work. And I mean, in the past, I think that I heard Lori told me, how long have we been doing these, Georgiana?
Since 2010.
Since 2010. And I think Lori said the other day they'd made $60,000 off of these since 2010. Pardon me?
Cumulative. over the.
Yeah, since then, that's how much we've made, which is a big chunk of change. So we would really like to have it. We haven't been able to have it in the past years with COVID and everything. And you can contact me and let me know. I'm putting the schedule together. You'll probably get another email from me if you haven't already. Let me know. And by the way, if you can't come, that's fine. It's nice to know that you can't come too, so I know at least you've looked at it, and I won't bother contacting you again if you're out of town that week. But any time is useful, and we'd appreciate it. Okay?
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair.
Wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come.
Ours is no
Whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come.
ours is no
Whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come.
May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, to this community, and to each other. Our opening words. 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Please rise as you're able and willing. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Are we ready for more music?
I guess so.
I guess so. Here it is. You're welcome to join us. It is hymn number 121. We'll build a land.
Where the oil of gladness is on.
I had planned in here a time for all ages, and I don't see youngsters. I do see one. And I don't know if you're comfortable coming up, Ellie, but I have some questions, and they're not just for the young people, they're for all of us to think about. And I will add another one that I didn't have on my list, but I think it's interesting for us to consider. So, who are your relatives? How far back can you remember relatives? Your grandparents, great-grandparents, great aunts and uncles? Are you familiar with people who are further back than that in your history, your family? When did you last see members of your family, extended family? And what do you know about them? We will now sing the children out to their classes. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Now, did we do the offering yet? It sounds like a good time for that. Excuse me. It's so nice to be human up here. There was a time I would have just panicked like crazy. Okay, I'm going to start off with this long one. It is a concern. You may have seen news articles about the contractor Banks Construction, who has been scamming customers for the past several years by taking deposits and never doing the work. It's estimated that he has stolen above $2 million, including $250,000 that my daughter's family owes Penn Air Credit Union. You may see my daughter and her family on TV soon as they are working with the media and lawyers to pressure Penn Air, who advanced the money to Banks Construction without proper authentication. This has been a huge worry for them and so many others, and will be going on for a while. And that's from Laura Keith King. Here's a nice one. Lisa Rawson is going to visit her new grandson Sawyer in Atlanta for the next 2 weeks. So we will miss you, but we're awfully glad for you getting to see Sawyer. Farron Collins tells us that after several months of rehab, her alcoholic brother is doing splendidly, getting counseling, going to AA, and working part-time. One more joy. Charlotte Snyder has a new grandson named Myers. Everyone's happy and healthy. And we will light one more candle for those joys and concerns that are in our hearts and unspoken. Thank you, Jack. So I wrote up this beautiful welcome or introduction to Jack Comstock, our speaker today, and it all dealt with food, most of it. He is a wonderful baker, and he can be known as Sugarcane Doc. He worked for many years in Hawaii as a pathologist for sugarcane. And he bakes wonderful pies that many of us, and today we will partake of in the conference room after the service. And he has provided beautiful meals to benefit the church, Asian meals and others as well. And he is just a very quiet person, but he is abounding with talents and love. I will now have Jack come up and speak to us about his family.
I'm going to be talking today of American history as lived by my family. And I'm the 11th generation of Comstocks in the U.S. The first person that came over was in 1635. So the Comstock family has lived a lot of American history. The first man that came over was William Comstock, and the name Comstock was a derivative of people that lived in this small village, and it was on the River Coombe. So, and to denote village, the word stock was there. So, Comstock, and that's all of the Comstocks in the United States are either descendants of William Comstock or have married into the family, or so that we're all related. Next slide. William came over when he was about 40 and settled in Connecticut, near Norwalk, Connecticut. And on November 10th, 1650, the city, or the town, voted to have him contact John Winthrop, who was in charge of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, in order to build a grain mill or a corn mill for the area. And if you look at the picture, that is a picture of the mill in the 1900s, early 1900s. So he got permission, and he actually built a mill that survived for over 200 years. And he did this without Home Depot. So, yeah, I'm very impressed because I don't think the blueprints existed at that time, and he did it. He was obviously an excellent builder. The second generation was his youngest son, who was born in 1635. So I don't know if he was born in England or on the ship or in the United States or on the new continent. He was a sergeant in the colonial militia. And what that statement, and knowing what the militia did, you can see why the Second Amendment was written. So, because of the need for a militia, you have the right to bear arms. He was also a deputy to the General Court. I have no idea what that means, but it sounds important. And he also, this was not so good, he was an expert witness on witchcraft. In particular, the person involved was the good wife Knapp. It didn't go good for her. That's that. So he was also on another jury for witchcraft, and he was also on the ministerial select committee for the local church. Okay, next slide. The third generation, Moses Comstock. So the last generation I wasn't really impressed with having a person as an expert witness on witchcraft, but it sort of goes a little bit worse. Moses was a highly respected man in the community, and he was very thrifty. He was prosperous, and he owned 4 slaves. One in particular was a man named Caesar, and that he has an interesting story. Next slide. Caesar was born, as I calculate, about 1709. He was purchased by Moses Comstock in 1721 when he was 12, and he remained with the Comstock family for the rest of his life. He also attended church in the Wilton Church, and he became a member of the church in 1741. He integrated the church. The Wilton Church, the picture shows the church. It's the third structure. As the church expanded, as the community grew, they built. And this church was built in 1770 and still exists. Lord, it is a welcoming church. So, has that status. So,
They were welcoming back in 1741.
yeah.
Yes, they were.
So, the Caesar created a will in 1773, when I thought that was interesting. He left everything to the Comstocks, various members. He had a large Bible and other religious books. He had silver buckles and that kind of things, and spoons and that. He also had money. I have no idea how much money he had, but he left it all to various Comstock members of the family. In later life, he was living with 2 elderly sisters that were single, and they had a farm. And since they were getting old, they took legal steps to make sure that Caesar had care when he needed it. So, next slide. The 4th, 5th, and 6th generations, Abijah, Thomas, and Nathan Selleck, had a connecting theme. Abijah and Thomas, plus 3 other sons, fought in the Revolutionary War. At that time, a general triumph was important. He actually attacked and burned Norwalk, Connecticut. And because of the service that Thomas did, in particular, because he supplied supplies to the Continental Army, and he also helped people after the burning of Norwalk with food and supplies. He was given a land grant in Ohio. And it was near Norwalk, Ohio, a little bit southeast of Cleveland. And his son, Nathan Selleck Comstock, went to Ohio and built a house at the mouth of the Huron River on Lake Erie in 1809, that time frame. Nathan Selleck was not the most, he had problems, he didn't get along with the Indians. And there's a historical book about the Firelands, which this land area was called because of the burning of Norwalk, Connecticut. So a man named Arnold was friendly with the Indians, and he communicated with one Indian, and the Indian just sort of nonchalantly said, "I'm going to kill Nathan Selleck." Nathan Selleck returned to Connecticut. This is right before the beginning of the War of 1812, and not everything was friendly on the Western Front, evidently. The next slide shows the seventh generation. This is my great-great-grandfather and his wife, Julia Comstock. He, as an 18-year-old, went from Connecticut to Ohio. It was easier traveling then because a public works project in New York was built, the Erie Canal, and it was completed in 1825. So transportation and travel was much easier at that time. He obtained the lands, the Comstock portion of the lands near Norwalk, Ohio, near a very small town, Milan, Ohio, and built a prosperous farm. The eighth generation. This is Edward Elbro Comstock. And I don't have a picture of his wife. She died relatively young. And I do have pictures of my great-aunt Julia B. Comstock, and she married later in life, and also Gertrude B. Comstock, and she also married later. They did not have children. Abro Comstock, he fought in the Civil War, but it was towards the end, say 1864 until the end of the war, in the Grand Army of the Republic near Washington, D.C., in that area. And then after the war, he returned. I mentioned the two sisters because in the next slide, it shows Julia Comstock Felton and her sister Emma in the porch of a small house. This is on Edison Street in Milan, which is a very small town. And it now is part of a museum complex. That whole side of this one block has maybe 5-6 structures, and then there's buildings in the back. I can remember visiting the former Comstock home when I was young. It was in a museum then. And the next slide. This shows myself and my two children, Tyler and Sarah, with my auntie, Esther, visiting the museum when the kids were small in the early 90s. So they have it's really an interesting complex. They have a blacksmith shop, and general store, and all of these things showing implements that were used or things used at that time frame in the 1800s. On the same street, on Edison Street, the block further north is actually, next slide, the birthplace of Thomas Edison. He was born in this small town in Ohio in 1847, and family lore, which I naturally believe, that my great aunt babysat and played with the young Edison, Thomas Edison, until he left when he was 8, 9, something like that, and moved to Michigan. Okay. Next slide. This now is the 9th generation. These are people that I've met, Philo Comstock and Minnie Comstock. And then I also have two pictures of Philo's older sisters, pardon me. So, a Gertrude Comstock and an Annabelle Comstock. These women never married. Gertrude Comstock, later in her life, she went to Los Angeles and was in real estate, owns several properties there. I don't know how much, but she owned properties, and she wanted my father's oldest brother to go out in the 1940s and assume the properties and that, but that didn't happen. And Gertrude also was a good cook, I guess. And you get to taste that. I have a recipe that's probably 100 years old, and it's a lemon cake, bundt cake, and the cake is fresh, so you can try that.
You had it today?
Yeah. So, yeah. Next slide. Okay. These are my parents, Charles and L.G. Comstock. Mom was a nurse, and I know she was a very compassionate nurse because I was told that while I was a young child. In our small town in northern Michigan, this man just came across the street one day. Mom and I were in town, and it was after she was through work, so she had a nursing uniform on. And this man came over and thanked her for saving his kid's life. So after he left, I asked her what happened. She didn't know. It was nothing out of the ordinary. So she just said sometimes you need to jumpstart kids to start breathing again. So that's what she did, evidently. The pictures of my Uncle George and my aunt are shown up here also. Uncle George served in the World War II. He did not go overseas. He was drafted probably late in the war. And while he was in the service, my aunt she was a housewife, but she got employment so that they could make the mortgage payments. Times weren't always easy, I guess. And they were very close to our family and very close to me. They helped loan me money so I could go to college. Next slide. The 11th generation. You're getting closer. This is myself and my wife, Jan. And it shows, this is when we got married, when I met her when I was working in Hawaii. And we got married in a Japanese tea house in Honolulu. And the picture on the right of the ceremony shows the woman in the dress is Maggie Setliff, who was a long-time member of the Unitarian Church in Honolulu. And the pictures on the left show Jan's older brother and his family with us, and then Jan presenting a corsage to her mother. Next slide. Up until my generation, the Comstocks didn't go to college, I guess. Mom went to nursing school, and her brothers did. But I've had cousins in my generation that did go to college, and so there's a picture of me in 1971 with my parents when I got my PhD at Michigan State University in plant pathology. A picture of Jan up on the upper right when she got a master's degree after the kids were born. She went back to school for that. And on the lower left is a picture of my daughter Sarah, and when she graduated from University of Florida and as an undergrad. And you can see there's still a connection of Hawaii. The kids went frequently back to see their grandparents. And then my daughter also got a master's degree in environmental engineering, also from the University of Florida. So, next picture, please. Jan was a teacher, and she taught English as a special language, or so. Whoops. Yeah. So she taught English to new immigrants and that. And sometimes their English, some of them were at all levels. Some had just came to the U.S. and that. And she had one experience which was unique, I guess. They had a tornado drill. So in that, the kids went under their desk for protection. Some of the kids missed the whole point. They thought it was an immigration raid. The next picture. Whoops. These are some of my friends, and I showed that because in my job, I had an opportunity to travel quite a bit towards the end. On the left shows me in visiting Yunnan province in China, and I was visiting a research station there, and they had a sugarcane germplasm collection. Some of the plants were very unique. On the upper right is a picture of myself and two other pathologists. We were at a meeting, and we received invitations to go to speak at the plant pathology meeting in Argentina. So the man on the left is Jorge Victoria from Colombia, and the man in the center is Freddie Garcia, who is Colombian, but he worked for over 20 years in Ecuador, and now he's back in the center director in the station in Colombia. And the picture on the lower right is, in 2017, I went to Pakistan, and I had been working with them and supplying them with some sugarcane germplasm. So Pakistan is now having severe floods, and because of their unique environment and that, I think that it's going to be worse in the future. The temperatures are very warm. They suffer from very high temperatures. They have drought areas, and then they also have floods. And the unique conditions are going to be more severe in the future. Next slide. This is my children meeting my parents for the first time. Not everything in life is easy or the way you want it. So my parents passed away in August of 1975. Tyler, my oldest child, was born in 1985. Because of that, next slide. When I moved back to the mainland in 1989, bringing the entire family, the kids and my wife went to Hawaii every year during the summer for 3 to 6 months, 3 to 6 weeks, depending. I don't think they ever missed a year that they didn't go. I would have remembered Jan telling me that, if that was the case. But so that they are here, they went with to visit their grandma. And the picture on the left lower shows Grandma Suda with my wife Jan and daughter Sarah. Grandma Suda could have been a spokesperson for osteoporosis. Literally, her height could vary by 2 feet, depending on how much pain, effort she wanted to expend to stand up straight. So she died at 98. Not bad. And other pictures are of various other times. The top right picture is my daughter and her husband with the two girls visiting Hawaii after my wife had died and my grandma Suda had passed away. The 12th generation, next slide, shows my daughter and at her wedding with my son-in-law Matt Davenport, and they got married in Hawaii. Very strong tie. So the other picture on the right shows the Comstocks, my son Tyler on the left of that picture, and then myself and my wife, and then the dad, Matt and Sarah. The last generation are the grandkids. Next slide. The twin girls are their fraternal twins. They're not identical. Emma and Olivia, with their younger brother, Benjamin Matthew Davenport the Sixth. Yeah, and the picture on the right is my daughter and the kids, the grandkids, at the first day of school. They're now in first grade. Benjamin Matthew Davenport the Sixth is in preschool. On the left, it shows them visiting first college tour. My daughter and son-in-law are both University of Florida graduates, and I think that they're going to be pushing the kids to go to U of F. Next slide. So that's the summary of my ancestors. Some good, some not so good happenings. But they helped build America. They fought in American wars, and they were very self-reliant. And I just can't see at 18 years old going and creating a farm, be responsible, because I don't think they got help from home much, particularly when it was from Connecticut. They influenced their communities, they supported their families, and they were everyday people. We didn't have presidents and the Comstocks in my direct lineage, governors or things like that. But they were everyday people helping to create an existence for themselves, and also that helping to prolong the government. And I'd like to conclude by the last sentence in Lincoln's Gettysburg, a phrase in the Gettysburg Address, that the government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. And that's important throughout the history, and it's still very important. So thanks, and I appreciate letting me talk today, and hopefully you have enjoyed it some. Thanks.
Please join us as we sing number 108, My Life Goes On in Endless Song.
Life goes on in endless
heart is moved by all I cannot save. So much has been destroyed. I have cast my lot with those who age after age, perversely with no extraordinary power, reconstitute the earth. Adrian Rich. Go in peace. Remember that there are delights around this hallway. Thank you.